My name is Margaret. I am 73 years old, and there is something no one warned me about. Not when I turned 60, not when I turned 65, not even when I turned 70. Because people don't talk about it. They avoid it. They hide it behind polite smiles and careful words, like it's something shameful, something that should quietly disappear on its own. But it doesn't disappear. It just becomes harder to admit. The truth is, after a certain age, people expect you to stop feeling things. Not physically, not obviously, but quietly. They expect your needs to fade, your desires to shrink, your sense of closeness to become irrelevant. And if it doesn't, they look at you like something is wrong. No one says it directly. They say it in softer ways. Focus on other things. You've lived your life. Be grateful for what you had. As if that answers anything. As if that replaces what's still there, what refuses to go away. Because here's the part they don't tell you. You don't stop wanting connection. You don't stop wanting to feel seen. You don't stop wanting someone to sit close to you, to understand you without asking. That part of you doesn't age the way your body does. But when no one talks about it, you start to question yourself. You start thinking, maybe this isn't normal. Maybe I'm supposed to be past this. Maybe I'm the problem. And once that thought enters your mind, it doesn't stay quiet. It grows, slowly, silently, until it starts changing how you live. I remember the exact moment it began for me. It wasn't dramatic. There was no big event, no clear turning point. Just a small, ordinary moment that I didn't understand at the time. I was standing in my bathroom, early morning, the kind of morning where everything feels too still. I looked at myself in the mirror, and for a second, I didn't recognize the person looking back. Not because I looked older, but because I felt disconnected. Like something inside me had shifted, and no one had told me it would happen. And that was the beginning, not of aging, but of confusion. Confusion about what I was allowed to feel. Confusion about what I was supposed to become, and the most dangerous part of all, confusion about whether I was still allowed to be human. I was 61 when I first realized something had changed, not in a way anyone could see, but in a way I could feel every single day. It started quietly, small moments, things I couldn't explain, but couldn't ignore either. I remember going to the doctor alone, sitting in that cold room, hands folded in my lap, trying to find the right words to describe something I didn't fully understand myself. He listened, nodded, wrote something down. Then he said it. "This is normal at your age." That sentence should have comforted me, but it didn't. Because it didn't explain anything. It didn't tell me what I was supposed to do next. It didn't tell me how I was supposed to feel. It just closed the conversation. I walked out of that office with a small paper bag in my hand. Inside it, a solution. Or at least, that's what it was supposed to be. But it didn't feel like a solution. it felt like confirmation. Confirmation that something about me was now different, and not in a way anyone wanted to talk about. When I got home, my husband Daniel was in the kitchen, cooking, just like he always did on weekends. There was something comforting about that. The smell of food, the sound of the pan, the normalness of it all. He turned around and smiled. "Hey, you're back. Everything okay?" And I said it. "Yeah, I'm fine." That word again. Fine. The most dishonest word we use when we don't want to explain the truth. Because I wasn't fine. I was scared. Not of getting older, but of not understanding what was happening to me. I sat at the table that evening, watching him move around the kitchen, and I felt something I had never felt before. Distance. Not physical distance. He was right there. But something inside me had already taken a step back, and I didn't even realize it. That's how it starts. Not with rejection, not with conflict, but with hesitation. A small pause before you respond. A small doubt before you allow closeness. And that hesitation grows. I stopped initiating things, stopped responding the same way, stopped being present. Not because I didn't want connection, but because I was afraid of what that connection would reveal. Afraid that something would feel wrong. Afraid that I wouldn't recognize myself. Afraid that he would notice, even if he never said a word. And that fear changed everything. I didn't talk about it. Not with him, not with anyone. Because how do you explain something you don't understand yourself? So instead, I started pretending. Pretending everything was the same. Pretending nothing had changed. Pretending I was still comfortable when I wasn't. And the more I pretended, the more disconnected I became. Not from him, from myself. The distance didn't happen all at once. That's the part people don't understand. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a moment. It was a pattern. Small changes, repeated over time until they became normal. I stopped reaching for him first, stopped leaning in, stopped responding the way I used to. And he noticed. Of course he noticed. You don't spend decades with someone without feeling when something shifts. One night, we were sitting on the couch. The television was on, but neither of us was really watching. He moved a little closer, placed his hand gently over mine, and for a second, everything froze. Not outside, inside me. Because instead of feeling comfort, I felt tension. Not because of him, but because of the voice in my head, the one that kept, "Something is different. This isn't the same anymore. You're not the same anymore." And before I could stop myself, I pulled my hand away. It wasn't dramatic. It was small, but it was enough. He looked at me, not angry, not confused, just careful. "I was just holding your hand," he said, and I nodded, but I didn't move back. I didn't fix it. I just let the moment pass. That was the first real crack, not because of what happened, but because of what I didn't do. I didn't explain. I didn't open up. I didn't tell him what I was feeling. I chose silence. and silence is where distance grows. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and slowly we stopped being the way we used to be. Not completely. We still talked, still ate together, still lived in the same space. But something was missing, something neither of us knew how to fix, because I never told him what was wrong. And the truth is, he tried. In his own quiet way, he tried to understand. But you can't solve a problem that no one is willing to name. So instead, we adapted. We became polite, careful, distant in ways that didn't look obvious, but felt very real. And I told myself, this is normal. That word again, normal. But it wasn't normal. It was avoidance. It was fear. And it was the beginning of something I didn't realize yet, regret. Daniel passed away on a Tuesday evening. No warning, no long goodbye, just gone. One moment he was there, and the next, the house felt different. Not empty, different. Because emptiness you can prepare for. But this was silence. A kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels permanent. The first few days were a blur. People came and went. Voices filled the house. Plates of food appeared on the table. Everyone said the right things. I'm so sorry. He was a good man. You were lucky to have him. And I nodded. But inside, there was only one thought repeating over and over again. I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him what I was feeling. I didn't tell him why I pulled away. I didn't tell him that it wasn't him. It was me trying to understand myself. And now, I never would. That's the part no one prepares you for. Not the loss, but the unfinished conversations, the moments you could have fixed, but didn't, the things you could have said, but chose to keep inside, because you thought you had time. After the funeral, the house became quiet again, too quiet. I remember sitting at the kitchen table one morning, 2 cups of coffee in front of me. Without thinking, I had made both, the way I always did, one for me, one for him. And it took me a few seconds to realize there was no one sitting across from me anymore. I stared at that second cup for a long time. It was still warm, steam rising slowly, like nothing had changed. But everything had. I didn't drink either of them. I just sat there, looking at that empty chair, feeling something heavier than sadness. Regret. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. The kind of regret that settles into your chest and stays there. Because I knew something in that moment that I couldn't ignore anymore. The distance between us wasn't because of age. It wasn't because things had changed. It was because I stopped allowing connection when I needed it the most. And by the time I understood that, it was too late. That's the truth no one tells you. It's not time that takes things away. It's silence. It took me years to understand what really happened. Not months, years. Because regret doesn't show up immediately. It waits. It sits quietly in your life until one small moment brings everything back. For me, it wasn't a big event. It was something simple. I was standing in the hallway, looking for something I didn't even need, and I opened the closet. His jacket was still there, hanging exactly where he left it, slightly worn at the sleeves, faint smell still there, like time had paused, but only in that one place. And something inside me broke, not because I missed him, I had been missing him every day, but because I finally understood what I had lost. Not time, not youth, not even him. I had lost moments that I was still there for, but didn't fully live. Moments I pulled away from. Moments I didn't respond to. Moments I didn't allow myself to feel, because I thought something was wrong with me, because I believed that different meant something was over. But it wasn't over. I ended it early, without realizing it, and that is the hardest truth I have to tell you. After 60, your life doesn't stop. Your body changes. Your rhythm changes. Your needs change. But your ability to feel does not disappear. And if you treat it like it does, you will slowly disconnect from the very thing that makes life worth living. Not because it left you, but because you stopped allowing it. So listen to me carefully. If something feels different in your life, don't hide from it. Don't label it as a problem. Don't push it away. Don't pretend it doesn't matter, because ignoring it is how you lose it. And you won't realize what you lost until you're sitting alone, staring at an empty chair, wishing you had just been honest when you still had the chance. Don't wait for that moment. Don't wait until silence becomes permanent. Say what you need to say. Feel what you need to feel. Allow what you are still capable of experiencing, because life doesn't ask you to stay the same. It asks you to stay present, and presence is something you can lose, even while you are still here. I am 73 years old, and the biggest mistake I made was not growing older. It was believing that I needed to step back from my own life just because it had changed. Not anymore, and not for you either, because the truth is, the real truth, the one no one says out loud. Some of the deepest connection you will ever feel comes after you stop pretending, after you stop performing, after you finally allow yourself to be exactly who you are now, not who you were, now. And if you can do that, if you can stay open, stay honest, stay present, then your life is not ending. It is becoming something most people never reach, real. And real can still be warm, even now.